41st President of this great country, Dr. George Herbert Walker Bush.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Pickering. At least he had the good grace to say newest classmate, not oldest classmate. To you, sir, and to Dr. Schilt, to my friend Beth Morian, the chair of this marvelous board, I salute you and thank you for this honor. To my old friend Ron Stone, I am privileged to be sharing this honor with him, and of course another friend whom I respect enormously, Dan Yergin, a Pulitzer Prize winner. I feel I'm in very, very good company, and I was delighted to hear that marvelous rendition of our national anthem. In fact, it blew me out of my seat here, but it was unbelievable. And I salute Debrea Brown for her rendition. I salute the University of Houston Good News Gospel Choir. As one who once worked in the world of politics, it is amazing to hear that many voices raised in unison. The members of the faculty, I particularly salute those who are, especially those who are honored here today. A special salute to the broke parents who are here also. I noticed when you were introduced, you got a big hand. And my 6,000 fellow graduates of the University of Houston, I am indeed privileged to be back on this campus. A few years back, then Astros coach Yogi Berra was honored in St. Louis. As usual, my favorite philosopher proved equal to the moment. He began, "I want to thank all the people who made this night necessary." So let me speak for a few moments to those who've made this day necessary, your parents, your relatives, and your teachers and your friends. And I'll try to do it a little more briefly than the graduation speech I heard at Yale. They had something, "With all respect, ma'am, an Episcopal minister was a man." And he got up and he talked about Y is for youth, and A is for altruism, and L is for loyalty. He'd gone on then about an hour and a half. He got to E is for excellence, about 2 hours. There's only a handful of students left, and one was in prayer. And the guy said, minister said, "Oh, well, I'm so glad you're praying, son." He said, "What are you praying for?" He said, "I'm thanking God I didn't go to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology." So, 46 years ago, Barbara and I packed up our red Studebaker and took off for West Texas. All of us learned different things at different stages of our lives, and already I'd learned lessons which I recommend to you. As example, as a little kid, I learned about prayer as a kid. Breakfast, my mother reading us our little lessons. I believe in prayer up to a point. I don't think even God could make me eat broccoli. But as a teenager, and I'm serious about that, as a teenager, I memorized the Navy hymn, "O hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea," and learned what World War II taught us, that death knows no ideology. By then, I'd met Barbara, and she taught me, as the good book says, to act justly and to talk humbly. She's still big on humility. Last Christmas, I went to London, and the honor was really for those who fought in Desert Storm, some of whom are out here graduating today. But I was knighted, Knight Grand Cross of the Order of Bath, and I was thrilled with that. And I said to Barbara, "What's it feel like to be married to a real knight?" She said, "Get out of bed and make the coffee, Sir George." And then came the post-war years for us, West Texas, and then Houston, We moved here about the time Ron did, where we lived the dream, the Little League and the PTA and the barbecues in the backyard. And I relearned something that my folks had taught me, service. How America can meet its better angels by helping neighbors serve neighbor. And I learned not to be afraid of daring and dreaming, and how much worse than failing is not trying to succeed. And we all stumble. I loved the way Dr. Pickering talked about change. I believe in a certain amount of it, but there was a little too much in 92. But nevertheless, here I am. And we all stumble. We all make mistakes. And that's what makes us human. But none of us should ever sit at a grandchild's graduation and think, I wish that were me starting over again. There's so much I'd do differently. You have a lifetime of chances in your grasp today, and don't lose them. Don't give up the chance to take a risk, to follow a vision, to hug a child, to touch a life. Touching a life, again, our President Pickering referred to this, is what I want to talk to you about here, because I hope you will craft a life enriched by service. You can start by reaching out to just one person, and maybe all you'll be able to do at first is give an hour at night or bring a meal to a shut-in. And maybe you can work on weekends, I know some of you already have, to teach the written word to an adult who can't read. And maybe you'll find time during the day for a lonely kid who doesn't have anybody else's arms waiting for him. Hold him and lead him and say his name. This is not a new concept, but its spirit is forever young. Speaking of forever young, those of us who are getting along find it difficult, but I was in a barber shop over here at the Houstonian the other day, and I saw two little kids looking around the corner. One of them said, no, it's not. And the other one said, yes, it is. I can tell from the wrinkles. And so it's a sad, but it's unfortunately a very true story. The most powerful idea in the world is the bridge of touch. What Thornton Wilder meant when he wrote, there is a land of the living and a land of the dying, and the bridge is love, the only survival. When I was president, I did speak of how Americans can become points of light, volunteering to help each other. And each day in my presidency, we named an official point of light in recognition of selfless work done by individuals and organizations all across this country. Government does some things very well. But while government is limited in what it can do, man's willingness to help his fellow man knows no limits. And it's God who gave you life, but it's you who give that life meaning. A lot of my time now is devoted to believing, as I hope you do and will, that joined by every graduating senior of every college in this country, and all the undergraduates and all the alumni and all of what Walter Winchell called Mr. and Mrs. America, together as private citizens, we can transform America. For that's the genius of this great and good land, and that's how we will renew its soul through one act of consequence at a time. Already, your education has given you the means to achieve, and now comes payback time to your parents, to your community, to those who have taught you at this great institution, to an America that is general, self-reliant, enterprising, and proud. My grandkids say, reality bites. And I tell them that reality challenges too. Barbara, she sees that reality in her crusade against illiteracy. And both of us feel it in our work for MD Anderson Hospital. What a metaphor for caring that institution is. Franklin Roosevelt said, to some generations much is given, of other generations much is expected. And both statements are true of your generation. Bing Crosby, philosopher, once observed, there is nothing I wouldn't do for Bob Hope. and there is nothing he wouldn't do for me. We spend our lives doing nothing for each other. He was kidding. They were good friends and would agree that the definition of a successful life must include helping others. And I am proud of how our administration helped make ours a better and safer and more peaceful world. Less fear of nuclear weapons, a reunified Germany, ancient enemies talking peace in the Middle East. Proud of how today we no longer live with the threat of nuclear annihilation. How today, because of the courage of some right here in this room, because of the courage of our Desert Storm military, a brutal, bold aggressor was set back, and no longer does brutal, bold aggression threaten most of the world. And now let's confront the equally devastating threats here at home, because here lurk the cold, old enemies of the human spirit, bitterness and bigotry, despair. And as we do, let's recall, yes, the American family has been under siege in recent times, both individual families and the idea of America as a family. But I'm convinced that it is the idea of family where the answer to our problems can be found. Let me close by telling you about a friend who I miss a lot, a political gut fighter, Lee Atwater, who died too young. And near the end of his life, he told me something. He said, whoever leads us must be made to speak to the spiritual vacuum at the heart of American society, this tumor of the soul. That summed up how I feel. As president, I anguished. I wasn't articulate. I should have taken TV lessons from Ron Stone. I wasn't articulate enough to let the people know how I anguished about how to fill the hollows in America's soul. If as president, I had had the power to give just one thing to this nation, it would have been the return to an inner moral compass, a compass nurtured by the family, valued by the community, and which says that every choice is a moral choice, and some things are simply morally wrong. It's wrong to betray, to be hurtful, to forget how, as the song says, Jesus loves the little children. Each is precious in his sight, as it is and must always be. You know, I'm learning a lot about a grandfather. I'm learning that a grandfather has a different kind of influence on the world than a president. Both have a lot of strength. Not long ago, I visited a little kid who has brain cancer, and no government in the world could legislate against his pain. But sitting there, my mother later said, well, you helped him. It helped a little. And that's what's important, making a single life even a little better, doing things government cannot. A college teacher said, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. And for today has power, boldness, and magic in it. Today is your day of magic. I love the faces coming down that interminable parade that we had earlier on. So be bold in your dreaming, in your living, in your caring. And then when you sit 50 years later at your grandchild's commencement, half a century from now, you'll look back at the tapestry of your life and find it good. And that will be your greatest success of all. Thank you.